presumption, it's an assumption. Sometime we found that perhaps they need more protection. There are some aberrations like Sati. Right? Sati is also not an aberration. It was not in Rajasthan, that part of the world. What happened was when the Islamic invasion took place, they were taking away the queens and princes and to their harem. Then they decided it's rather better to go and die in the fire than be with them. It was not for the entire population, no. The 90% population was not involved. It is only the ruling class which were involved in that. So that became a practice at that time. Similarly, after all, Sita had marriage by choice, isn't it? Rukmani and Krishna married by choice. She eloped with him, right? So we don't have Shakuntala married out of love. So there is no question of child marriage. Child marriage also became very normal practice after the Islamic invasion. When they came around, in Islam there is one practice, one edict they have to follow. If somebody is a married woman, you are not supposed to look at her. Someone is a married woman, you are not supposed to look at her. So the Hindus found it is better to get this girl married, child married, so that he will not think of looking at her. So Aurangzeb had this story, you know. Aurangzeb was a very strict, devout Muslim. He was a cruel guy, but he was a very devout Muslim. So one day, he called all his people and said the fellow has done a wrong, right, of looking at a married woman. Just looking through eye, a wrong cast, a wrong eye, a married woman, what is the punishment? The ulemas sit and say, all right, the punishment is you have to heat sand, right, and pour it in his eyes. That's the punishment. He says, all right, keep it ready. Tomorrow I'll bring that guy. And the bench was ready and hot sand was getting heated up and all that. Nobody came and they asked Aurangzeb, where is that? He lied down there. He says, why? No, Jahanpana, it's not possible and all that. He says, I have done the mistake. Yesterday I saw a Hindu woman who was a married woman, right? But I had a wrong eye I did. So that's a punishment you have to do. Right? Then they get into all kinds of argument and finally the story goes that he closed his eye because he was king and it was poured on him. Right? The question is, the child marriage or sati or any of these practices that we had, several of these aberrations came not because it was a common practice in India, no. It was not there in the Vedic period. It was not there in the first 1,000 years. It came with the Islamic invasion. Right? That is all gone now. Now, why do we worship goddess? I'll go into some other session when I talk about it. We worship goddess and we do all the meditation because we are constantly seeking gods. I am so helpless. If you ask me to now say, don't think about God, don't think about world, I can't do that. So I tell God, you yourself do all these things for me. What do I tell God? God, I don't understand. I am too small a man. Don't confuse me with this knowledge about world and God and all those things. You better do. So we worship Durga and say, please do that. Durgati Nivarni is Durga. Gati is mind's movement. Right? That famous song is there. Whose song is that very famous singer? I forget his name. His song is Durgati Nivarani. This is the song, right? Out of that you can take that. So finally we come down in meditation also into prayer mode because we are saying, I'm so helpless, Krishna. Please do whatever you want with me. Please help me in achieving you. Please give me yourself to me, right? So prayer also now takes the form of helplessness in this respect, not the other helplessness that I talked about when the others invaded. Here I am saying, I am too confused, I don't understand all these things. People say, so many meditations you do this. So finally he says, I surrender, this body is yours, this mind is yours, you better do that. So bhakti also leads to that situation of meditative mood. Bhakti also takes you to God and beyond God. So you become part of it. I was talking about Dharmaraja. The Asri Ramani comes, Dharma and all these people go, Bhima, Arjuna and all that, one after the other they die. The question is asked, they could not answer the question. And finally, Dharma answers all the questions. So Dharma says, already you can go. Along with him, who goes? One dog. Right? One dog. Why dog? Why dog? Vasana. Dog is smell, it has a sense of smell very high. So, even if dharma is there, even such knowledgeable person, when he dies, he carries with him the vasana. So, in Indraloka, you cannot go with vasana. Therefore, it says there is no entry for dog here, you alone come. The meaning there is, if you have vasana, you are in narka. Narka in the sense you will have to come back and be born. Now you are beyond that, but that dog is not permitted. After that, the dog becomes God. So that's how the story ends. So that is in respect to this particular question. This goes on until finally the dog disappears. That means vasana completely disappears. Next. In all our meditation, the most important symbol that we have is Om. Right? I told you about this Mandukya Upanishad. The whole Upanishad is about explaining about Om, 14 verses. What it means is this. This symbol is the Jagrat Avastha. Jagrat means waking stage. Normal waking stage is a conscious mind. It is present. Today's, it is relative. There is a relativity involved. This curve below is Sushupti, deep sleep. Here it is unconscious mind. There is future, there is relativity. There is no past in this, and there is only tomorrow for this. But it's still relative. This is also relative. This is also relative. This curve here is you. It is Swapna. It is dream stage. It is subconscious. Whereas this is conscious, this is unconscious, this is subconscious. Mind is past and mind dwells on past. The dream is all about past and relative. This is also relative, this is also relative, this is also relative. All this is relative states. So Jagrat, Sushupti and Swapna, these three are all relative states in which we are every day going through. As soon as we go home, we eat and we are going to sleep. Right? That we are getting into conscious to unconscious mode. Right? And after some sleep, we start dreaming also. We are going to subconscious. Because dream is subconscious, you are aware, but subconscious. Beyond this is this. This is Bindu, dot. That dot is transcendental. It's a point because it doesn't have any dimension. Dimension means multiplicity. There is only one point. And that is the reality. This cross is Maya. This truth that we are is hidden from us by Maya and make us imagine that we have these three states. We don't have those states, but we think we have a subconscious state, we have a Jagrat state, we have a Sushupti state. All states are in a dreaming state, Rishi should say. The so-called Jagrat state that we are in now, when we are talking about it, even this is a dream, they say, if you get into that reality. So, waking stage, dreaming stage, sleeping stage, and Turiya stage. These are four. In meditation, you are trying to reach this stage. So you are not sleeping. No, that's not controllable. You are not sleeping, you are not dreaming, you are not in subconscious like in a coma mode, you are not aware, but you are not waking and thinking, you are aware. So objective of meditation is to go to this stage. So in the waking stage you are conscious but thinking. There is consciousness plus thinking. In a dreaming stage there is unconsciousness plus thinking. In dream also you are thinking, but there is unconsciousness. In sleeping there is unconsciousness minus thinking. Isn't it? In Sushupti Avastha there is unconsciousness, but there is no thinking. That is a real sleep. It is not dreaming. And in Turiya Avastha, Turiya means fourth. Tritiya is third, Dvitiya is two, Turiya is fourth in Sanskrit. Here there is consciousness minus thinking. I am aware, but I am not thinking. The first day I said, the challenge before any yogi is, you have to be aware, but not think. Right? In meditation, you are trying to get into that state. Next. In waking, conscious of body and mind, one is falsely identified with them. We are identified with our body, but that's not true. We think I am thinking I am this body. Right? So this is a gross real. This is gross. Right? Sthula. Next is Sushma, dreaming. It is subtle. Deep sleep is causal. Causal means there is some cause out of which you are coming. That cause is the cause for the both Sthula and Sushma. Dreaming stage is the subtle, because there is no gross there. In waking stage there is a lot of gross objects. In dreaming stage there are objects, but they are all subtle. There are no physicality about it. It's true for the mind, but otherwise it's not true. And in a state of absorption, which samadhi is, which meditation is aiming at, full consciousness but no identification of the body and mind. In the first case, you are identified with the body and mind. In the second case, you are conscious, not conscious of the body. In dreaming, the body is not there, because without the body also you roam around. In third case, you are not conscious of body or mind. Both are not there in deep sleep stage. In Sushupti Avastha, both are not there. In waking Jagrata Avastha, body and mind are both there. In dreaming, right, Swapna Avastha, body is not there, mind is very much there. In the deep sleep stage, Sushupti Avastha, neither body is there nor mind is there, but you are unconscious. In the Turiya Avastha, body is not there, mind is not there, but you are not unconscious, you are conscious. It is consciousness minus thinking. Whereas in the first stage it is consciousness with thinking. Right? So meditation is a stage from the gross to subtle to causal to Brahman. Right? That's the process in which you are. It all appears long, it's not. For some people, Vivekananda, Ramakrishna Paramahansa simply put his head there and it's finished. Right? That's what we read about. So that's why it is said a guru may be able to give a lot more. So many people surrendered to the guru. In the case of Mandana Mishra, after he was defeated, he surrendered to Guru and he became one of his disciples. Of the 4 disciples, he was one of the disciples. Next. What is the medical benefit now? From day one we are talking about medical benefit, because the biggest challenge that you will face is your health. Until that health is there, none of this is reality. You can't even come here to the yoga class. Isn't it? If you have headache and you have body headache and body ache and then you have a leg pain, you are not even able to climb, where is the question of yoga? Right? If normal yoga is not there, where is the question of your meditation? So body, health. This is the biggest challenge that you will have. Biggest challenge in life that you will face tomorrow is health. The earlier generation did not face this much challenge because they had desires all right, it is not means were not available. In the Jamindar days, I would have had a desire to have my own horse carriage, but Jamindar will not allow me to do that. It's a stupid fellow, only one fellow can have. There is no way your desire can be fulfilled in those days, because only one Jamindar and the rest of the people should be ordinary. Only one Raja and the rest should be ordinary. There is no way you can do. But today, I have money, I can have my own helicopter, I can have a ship of my own, I can have 100 wives, right? I can eat so many thousands of laddus if I want. Whatever I want, I can do. Because there is democratic freedom with an economic freedom also. That is why the challenge is more for this. That is why there is more ill health also. The earlier people were healthy not because they did not have desires, but because they were conditioned. There are no hotels to eat masala dosa there. It is not there. You cannot eat morning Indonesian, afternoon Chinese, and night Turkish food. That's not possible. Because it's just not there. Only that kakrao is available, nothing else is possible. Therefore, it was conditioned. This generation, that conditioning has been removed. You can go to Super Bazaar, buy all sorts of junk. En route, eat pizzas and come. And after that, you can go for a movie, a home theater, and keep on munching popcorn or munching chips. You can do all that. Within a matter of 2-3 hours, you can dump 200 grams of salt into your body and kill that heart. You can do that, you have a choice. Earlier it is not possible. There are no pizza shop, there are no person of If you want to make chips, you have to fry yourself, and oil is so costly, only on Diwali day you can think of having a fried stuff. The rest of the day is not possible. So there is a conditioning. So your case, it is not so. It is a world of plenty. That will kill you. That's the reason for constant interest in this. It improves your immune system. Not only yoga, asanas improve your immune system, but meditation also improves. It oxygenates the blood. It lowers blood pressure. It reduces production of stress-related hormones and cortisol. Releases endorphin, producing a feeling of well-being. Increased levels of melatonin. That's one of the hormones that is necessary to get your good night's sleep. You can try home meditation 20 minutes. I told you the other day. You will happily sleep. There's no doubt. Be even 20 times I am talking about. By the time you are in 10, 12, like that it will come. Just try. 20, you won't be able to count. Even by the time 7, 8, 9, especially in the evening when you are already tired, you will automatically go into sleep. Good sleep, good hunger, and cleaning of the body. That's the health. Basic thing. If any one of these things affected everything, if you have been able to sleep 6 to 8 hours, that means your health is good. If you have been able to eat whatever you want, stomach full, good. But after having eaten, if you are able to clean your body in the morning, it's good. Because night is the time when all the mucus in the body comes out. That comes out only if you have good sleep. You try. If you don't sleep well, you won't have this mucus in the eye. Have you tried that? Whole night you keep awake, there will be no mucus there. There will be no mucus in the... Pardon me? Doesn't matter. Those thoughts will go. It's like a dog, we say. As long as you don't bother, the dog will not follow you. The moment you start looking at it, it will follow. So if you think the thought is there, don't worry about it. Just go on, even let you have 100 thoughts, doesn't matter. Automatically those thoughts will go because it will not allow. Breath is mind. Right? The moment you are trying to regulate breath, the mind will automatically calm down. First breath you may have thoughts, second breath, yes, third breath, yes, eighth breath already coming down, 20th breath, it will come down. It's a physical mechanism, there is no way all the thought can be there. If that is still very strong, that means the day your experiences, your impressions have been so strong, it has been little bad practice that day. Practice is impeded that day. So those are all the physical benefits. Next. Finally, in an absorption, what is the samadhi there? When cognition becomes one. There is no more seer and seen, and the process of seeing. The whole thing is one. That is samadhi. Next. There is a scientist. He is a Japanese guy called Masaru Emoto. We go to temple, we have kirtan, right? Before we eat, we pray. That fellow wanted to know what is all this nonsense. Even church, there are prayers. Even Christians have the practice of taking food. Islam has the practice of meditating. He really wanted to know, is that a stupid practice? Is that some ritual or is that any real? So what he did was, he took some water. Right? What he did? He took some water. In that water, he did not pray. He kept on dirtying thoughts. That is a photograph. Left side you see. That is a photograph he had. And he prayed with the help of classical music. He played music. You see the crystal formation. It is structured beautifully, like it's a diamond. Here it's all random. So what he does? He uses a camera that's called a dark field microscope camera. So he froze water. He prayed in front of water. He had all positive thoughts in front of water. Then he froze that water and took photograph. When he took photograph, the structure, molecular structure was like this. When he did not do all these things, it was like this. Right? So whether thought has a force on food that you take, on water that you take, he proved it is true. We think water does not have life. No, water has life. We think air does not have life. No, air has life. Everything has life. Next. He also stuck a piece of paper and said, "You stupid fellow." He had all bad thoughts about water and stuck a paper and said, "You make me sick." This is how water looks like. Here is like a paper, I love you. And this is how it looks like. Right? Next. This is a polluted water, tankman water. This is how the structure looks like. If you freezes and takes a dark field microscope and watches it, just like this. I've been to this Lourdes church also in France. That water is very pure water. Most of the Pushkarni is supposed to be like this. That is why in temple when you go, we are asked to have a dip. That water is purified with thoughts, with good thoughts. So thought does have an effect on not just body, not all those cortisol and all that we talked about, even on food that we take. The old system, why the wife was standing there and husband was eating, she served and she stood there. The idea here is, when he is taking, she is praying also. Let the food be eaten by him, not he by the food. We are all eaten by the food. The food is digesting us. We are not digesting food. Whereas with prayer, she was, because that was a period where the moment the man dies, woman's life becomes very miserable because economic independence was not there. Everything depended upon this man. So there was a time. Today I am not saying husband should do that. No, both of you can together be there, but pray for each other. Pray for each other. The prayer works much better if you do it for other. I didn't send you one slide. There are two fellows. It was a shipwrecked, and there were only two survivors. Somehow they swam and they went and landed in an island. Right? They're just all alone in that island. There's nothing else is available. There's no way they could find a new ship and all that. Both decided, all right, let us go to each end of the island. You go east and I go west. Right? We'll start praying. Let us see whose prayers are addressed by God. Right? The first fellow prayed and said, look, I am really sick now, I am hungry. Why not there be a tree and with a lot of fruits? And there are a tree and there are a lot of fruits. He ate that fruit. Then he said, look, I am so lonely here. Why not send me a woman? I want a wife here. Somehow a wife appeared. It was there. Then both of us are alone here. We would like to go back and see the world. Somehow why don't you send a ship? A ship came. Right? God addressed each one of the concerns. Then he told God and told the other fellow also, look, only my prayers are getting achieved. You have nothing, none of your prayers are addressed. So you don't deserve to be in the ship. You better stay here, I'll go. Then God answered, stupid fellow, it is his prayers which are attacked, not yours. How come? He all the time kept on praying. He wanted whatever prayer you have, that should be benefited. That should be given by God. His prayer was, whatever may be the prayer of the first, the other fellow, let that be addressed. So his prayer is more important. So normally it is said, you pray for yourself is not as effective as you pray for others. Right? So when prayer on water can have so much effect, prayer on trees can have so much effect. They yield more fruits. They yield good flowers. Naturally prayer on each other will have very much more effect. So each can go back, and whenever you pray, please pray for the whole of your class. It will have an effect on each other. Next. In terms of today's computer technology, what is said is, this is, in your mind is the browser, right? There is a clear all your cache. That means remove all that. That's meditation. Now delete all this from your history. From the history, from the folders it is deleted. And finally, there is a blank, it's a pass. This is the meditation in terms of computerized technology today. You delete from your memory. So at the end of the day, like the camel that is unloading, I told you about the camel, go unload, delete, and have 20 minutes deep meditation. You will be able to sleep off well. When you sleep off well, you are refreshed. When you are refreshed, you look at world much better rather than a sleepless night. Next. Next is blank. So we should all have a blank now. So what we have tried to do in the last 3 months, almost 10 sessions, is try to address this fundamental problem that mind is what it is. This is where we start. So very first definition, we started realizing that it's all about yoga is chitta vritti nirodha, right? Yoga is all about avoidance of mental modification. So we start where we are. We don't start with some theory somewhere. We start with where we are. Yoga also starts with where you are. Hinduism addresses the current issues. We don't talk about some eternal heaven that you will have when Jesus comes. Then you are totally helpless. Here we address psychologically, functionally, very clearly, logically, that mind is the issue. If mind is the issue, why mind is like that? The three gunas. What we can do in order to do this? So first your yama niyama should be good. So your practices should be, you can't go and cheat and loot and then still have calm mind. It's not possible. So all those practices came. Then came pranayama. So how breath regulation becomes important. Then we said we defined the pratyahara as opposite thinking. If you think of bad, think of good, right? And finally we ended up with samadhi. Dhyana and then samadhi. Dhyana is dhi plus ayanam. That is constantly practice on the dhi, right? So your Gayatri mantra also I mentioned about the dhi. Dhi is the knowledge. So constantly meditate about knowledge and seek God. Please give me knowledge. Gayatri mantra is completely about not seek, give me some money. No. Not give me good health. Give my child first class first. Let her be the first in the class. No, none of those things. It's constantly about dhiyo yona prachotayat. Please present me with dhi. Na, me. Dhiyo. Please, with this. That out of that comes this word dhyana. Dhi plus ayana. Ayana means practice. Ramayana means also that. Right? Rama plus ayana. Ayana is your mirror. Atma avaloka sadhana we say. Ramayana is for you to reflect yourself. It's a mirror. Ramayana acts like a mirror. Right? Similarly, when you are talking about itihasa, we always show it's all stories. No. It's a wonderful word. Iti plus aha plus asa. Iti is it, English word it. Ha is exclamation, no? Ha we say, no? It indeed. Asa means was. It indeed was. All that incidences took place. Not that there is no Rama, no Sita, not that there is no, let's say, Patliputra, there is no Kurukshetra. No, it's all there. But our rishis preserved all that and brought beautiful stories into it so that we even today benefit. Even today we know what was the question Arjuna asked Krishna. Whereas from a normal history, we don't know anything about it. Right? So our people have given a lot more. Therefore, what is the other way in which all the time I cannot come and sit in yoga class? Right? But all the time I can read Ramayana, Mahabharata. Every time you read, it gives new. In childhood, if you read, it's one story. In the middle age, you read, it's another story. In the later experience, you read, it's another story. It's never the same story. You go on listening to 10 different versions of 10 different speakers, you will find again and again new angles to that. So the other best way for you is be in the company of these people. You are literally in the company of Vyasa. What more can we ask for? If we can be in the company of Vyasa Maharshi, if we can be in the company of Valmiki Maharshi, what more can you ask for? So this is the legacy which the elders have given. Let us meditate, let us practice asanas, let us also understand the beautiful messages that has been constantly here. Let us preserve the health. Then I am sure life will be much more pleasant. We will forget about samadhi achieving and all that later on. That we leave it to him to take care of. We will do our portion. The rest we leave it to him to take care of. Any questions you have?
When we say that life force is there, in the beginning, how many life forces were there?
Only one. There are no many life forces. That one in you expresses as you. The one in me expresses as you, as me. There are no multiple. Same thing is there in the water, same thing is there in the earth, the same thing is there in animal, same thing is there in the plant, same thing is there in thousands of millions. All these appears to be thousands. At this stage we are only talking about it is in you, in you, in you, in you, in me and all that. It's all relatively real words. But there is only one life force. There is only one unity. That's why it is called Advaita, absence of two. We did not say Ekam. We said it is Advaita. Absence of two. Mind you, our people would have said it's only one. Why they didn't say it's only one? They said it is no two because we think it is two. He says it is no two. To us, two appears. They say it is not two, it's only one.
It's the life of, as Brahma blinks, a million years pass by. Is that,
Pardon me?
is that accurate? When Brahma blinks an eyelid.
I already told you there is no number of years, there is no millions of years. All that is relatively true.
Yeah, relative.
Right? So, there is a saying that when you are talking about 7 lakh so many years, and then you have 4 lakh and odd years as far as Dwapara Yuga is concerned. Treta Yuga is supposed to be 7 lakh years. It is also said 1 year is 1 day. 1 year is 1 day. Therefore, it need not be taken as 7 lakh years. These are all ways of talking, right? Because Treta Yuga practices, Dwapara Yuga practices, today's practices, they are same. Mythology tells you law is also same. You see, 14 years was the Vanavasa for Rama, right? Similarly, when you come to Pandavas and Kauravas, the Pandavas are asked to go away for 14 years, 13 years away and 1 year in Vanaprastha, right? Right? Yeah, that is in different this thing. What is the meaning of these 14 years? In today's terminology also, if you have a house and you have given it to somebody else, he has not paid you rent for 14 years, he is the owner. He is the owner. Mind you, Treta Yuga law is same in the Dwapara Yuga. Dwapara Yuga law is the same even today. So they are only symbolic way of talking about it. If you really go into Ramayana, Mahabharata and all that, then you see Vaisampayana Maharshi is seen there in the Ramayana period, in Mahabharata period also. There are some characters which are common in both. It is not a sharp division, not at all. So, Lavakusa were told about Rama in the Dwapara Yuga. It is a transition. So, those number of years that we talk about is relative. They are not absolute. Strictly speaking, in Treta Yuga means the period of truth, where truth prevailed much more. In Dwapara Yuga, already the integration has taken place. That's why these fellows were quarreling, fighting. Right? But in my understanding, today's Yuga is much more truthful than those years. Today, no Sita will be asked to go and put herself in fire. Is it possible? It looks silly. Right? Today there is no question of. Yeah. They throw her into fire, they put acid. But it defies the other logic that human generation, even plant, everything is only going to higher and higher and higher and higher states. That's God's way. If that being so, you cannot degrade. You can only go higher and higher and higher in terms of thoughts. Undoubtedly, those periods were periods of little more ethics. But the moment you hear about Karna and you hear about Adharma Yuddha and all those things, you don't see that much ethics. So we can draw our own lessons, we can try to understand. Yes, we glorify our past, but let us not be blind to the past and let us not say that present is completely wrong. Because we have a tendency, everything is spoiled, everything is gone. No, nothing is gone. It's beautiful. It's evolving. Right? Today's society is as good or as bad as the old society. That's all. I don't think it is worse than the earlier society. Not at all. Because from those Ramayana Mahabharata incidences, leaving the spiritual portion of it, if you see, there is nothing really great about it. Something is totally wrong with the society. Isn't it? So, it's not so much that that society is wrong, this society is good and all that. All this is again what you want to believe in. If you want to believe in all, everything is wrong and everything is decoyed, everything is gone, you are only spoiling your thought. Keep this positive. If this has to be positive, accept that things are. Are we not seeing our children are much better than us? They are less prejudiced than us? Are they not? In our childhood, we had a lot more prejudices. Our parents put a lot more restriction. Don't go with that fellow. Don't do this. Don't do that, and all that. Right? There is a lot more class differences in our childhood. Today, there is not much of a class difference there. Isn't that a classic example of a better society evolving? There is a society. There is the flip side of it is more materialism is there. There is also likely to be bad. I told you it was a conditioned goodness. Remaining that good in today's unconditioned field is much tougher. That's why the younger generation finds it much tougher to do. Any other question? Concentration, absorption, meditation, all this is words. All that happen, I explained to you, concentration is you take one object and throw the rest. You are concentrating on that. Whether you are reading a book, I am concentrating on that. I am talking to you, I am concentrating, I am throwing the rest. In a concentration, the distance between the seer and the seen, or the speaker and the listener, that is coming down. But two are still there. Concentration means there are two. When a little more contemplation means the distance is further come down, it is overlapping. Half circle here, half there. In an absorption, it's complete. That's why I gave the example. Before the boyfriend comes, girlfriend comes, two distances. He was going on cursing her, right? He never comes on time and all that. Or she was cursing, he has not come on time, I have to go back home. All kinds of extraneous thoughts. The moment both have seen, all that has gone. Right? They are becoming more proximate, but they are still two. But when they hold hand in hand, for a moment there is absorption. Isn't it? The two have gone. There is only absorption. It happens in our life. When you are reading constantly, you are totally absorbed. You have even forgotten yourself. Until somebody wakes you up, somebody calls you, you don't even remember because you have become part of that characters in the book. You are not there. Pardon me? Yeah, yeah. You become one more character there. With the Sas and Bahu, and you are the third Bahu or Sas there. Right? It happens because often we go through that experiences. We only don't realize that we have gone through the experience. It's the same kind of an experience, but lasting long and with no bad effect, no ill effects. That's right. That's right. Thank you very much. Good night.